Hello, so we are back with the communication toolbox and we are somewhere in episode 6. We just spoke about or learned about the stages of conflict, and as we consider the beginning, the middle, and the end of conflict, the following piece is all about closure. So closure is something that people talk about a great deal, and it's really hard. I mean, people might post something on Facebook or in different communication forum groups. How do I get closure? This idea that there is unfinished business in our life. Now, if there's a situational conflict, closure may be less distressing, but when we have a buildup of a lot of unresolved conflicts, that need for closure becomes more and more anxiety provoking. And that's where we start to say, geez, like, how do I get some closure for this? I've said this before, but this is one of the most meaningful things I've learned about closure and repair recently. Is in the Circle of Security book, Raising a Secure Child, they write, without rupture, repair is not possible. And repair is actually more vital to attachment than rupture is. But I mean, the truth is, repair is extremely vulnerable. It's actually really risky business, and it's really hard to do. That's why we're all here trying to figure out about closure, right? So with the communication toolbox, again, this is rooted in the couples survival workbook, was the foundation for these guidelines. And then with all the points that I'm referencing, I kind of took it and I added to it. I changed some things about it, but I really appreciated looking at theorists and people who knew more than I did at that point, and really gleaned from some amazing psychologists that were informing our community. All right, so closure. So the risky business with closure is that it may not, or usually doesn't happen immediately, and that is really distressing. A more verbal person tends to show up more about their need, and they're clawing at the situation for the closure, which sounds judgmental, but at the same time it feels so urgent. It's like, I'm trying, I need you. Whereas somebody who is more silent might retreat more, trying to just find out how to have closure. Closure might just be like, let's ease off the feelings. The more we do either of these behaviors, the more we get stuck in that negative lack of closure cycle. So the big thing is closure. The definition of closure is that closure is an opportunity for emotional repair. There's a few key pieces or notes of how we can really heighten our ability to experience closure. So one, wait for a time when the heated feelings will have been extinguished. So, take that pause, self-regulate, do the awareness wheel, take some time to just sink into yourself and get self-secure, certain of who you are, so that you can go back to the conversation in a refreshed, more balanced, centered place. And what we know about closure and repair is it's so hard. So there's a time in our life where we can just challenge ourselves to be the bigger person. If no one steps forward, closure doesn't happen. If it's safe and appropriate to step forward, maybe you can be that person. Don't interpret the other person's feelings or emotions. Don't try to tell them, you did this because ... is more than likely going to add fuel. It's going to get you in trouble. And admit if you did something hurtful. So there is this place to figure out what is apology. Now, apology is pretty complicated, and it can come across as more of a band-aid and even do more harm than good. So we want to be really cautious with how we use apologies. Repair is not always about saying I'm sorry. Repair is about repair. Repair equals closure. Apology does not always equal closure. And then come prepared with a possible solution. So if you have some ideas, that's great. And establish some healthy guidelines for your next conflict. Now, these are really lovely ideas that can blow up very easily. So there's a few pieces to also consider about how we create that environment, that active listening zone where this conversation can occur. So monitor your tone of voice and your body language. Keep the discussion on track. From an emotionally focused therapy point of view, we want to do something, we call it slicing it thinner. Let's just work on one problem. We don't have to fix our entire life journey relationship in the next 20 minutes. Let's just let this 20 minutes be about what happened 30 minutes ago, or 3 hours ago, or yesterday morning. Just that one piece. Be aware of your negative pattern of conflict. So some of those conflict styles and patterns that we talked about earlier in the communication toolbox become very relevant as we consider how we're gonna avoid our pitfalls and keep ourselves regulated inside. Ooh, I noticed some contemptuousness wanting to come up, or oh, I want to just stonewall you right out. I'm feeling that numb feeling. So we notice these things and we try to catch ourselves. The more I catch myself in my own negative pattern, the more I feel safe to catch myself, the more available I can be in these intense conversations, the more likely it is that I can contribute to closure. I can find repair with you. I repair with me first, and all those layers of self, I can find a way to repair with you. So make up conflict guidelines ahead of time. It doesn't hurt. In times of peace, prepare for war. So over coffee, maybe we say to our person, you know, the other day when we were having that hard conversation, it really helped me that we sat together on the couch. Or the other day when we were working on finding a solution and you said, let's write down our ideas. That was a really good idea. Or I really appreciated that even though you didn't know what to say, you came up and gave me a hug. These are all ways that we can promote these guidelines. And when you feel attacked, don't react. That sounds like, a model for a commercial or something. But we gotta be prepared that bullets may fly. And we can't always guard ourselves from reacting to a good old zinger. However, let's try to just shore ourselves up, catch ourselves as often as we can. And also let's catch ourselves. When I start reacting inside, what's more important than not reacting to someone else is I don't want to react to me and get my mouth getting me in trouble with the person I'm trying to fix things with. So let's watch out for our own contemptuousness, our own criticisms, our own judgments. And if we do it, again, model by owning our poor behavior. And being respectful, offering security, offering some safety as much as we can. The more we practice it, the more it impacts our neural pathways in our brain, the more likely we are to actually be able to do closure as frequently as we'd like to. There's these other pieces, all these things that we've been learning in the communication toolbox. I'm going to do a summary at the end. This is a great place for active listening. This is a great place for the awareness wheel. This is a great place for some of those self-reflection activities that we've talked about. So if we take a pause, we're actually zoning in, considering who we are in what just happened, so that when we press play again, we can talk about those things with our person. Okay, you guys, so again, I'm a huge fan of discussing the importance of repair. I'm a huge fan of trying to help people understand how to promote closure, because again, we're going to have conflict and fights for the rest of our lives. Hopefully, if we're lucky, we get to do it with one person, have an adult love relationship that lasts. And if we want to maintain that relationship in as healthful a way as possible, then having a resolution skill set, having a method to understand our patterns and cycles of conflict, those things are so key. We don't want to just survive our love relationship. The communication toolbox is so much more about how do we thrive. So take some time, consider closure, think about what might work for you, and practice some of these things and see what happens. And when you do it right, because you can, I hope you give yourself some kudos. All right, guys, see you next time. Bye.